Hey everybody, Pastor Matt here. Happy Tuesday, November 24th to you. We had a wonderful time on Sunday morning. Hopefully you were able to engage us online if you weren't able to come in person. I know that the way things are going right now, some of you are being very careful about coming out. We appreciate that. And we appreciate all of the encouraging notes that you have sent to help keep us going. Because sometimes we don't always know how things are, especially with the attendance being down and not having that metric to determine, just how many people we're able to engage. You letting us know is a big help to us. I want to bring something up to your attention. One of my favorite missiologists is a guy named Christopherson. Now, I don't agree with every single thing that he may say, and maybe the reason I don't agree with every single thing that he may say is just because it may be something I really don't want to hear. But we heard him a couple of years ago when the Mile High Baptist Association brought him in, and we began to talk through what now the new cultures, the new culture in our cities, I should say, are looking like. And sometimes when we long for, we've been going through this a while as far as where we've been longing for it going back to normal. But even before then, I think there were a lot of us that may remember when there was more of a Judeo-Christian ethic, whatever that means now, but there was more of a Judeo-Christian ethic going about. And we were starting to see things move away from that, church attendance being down, more people identifying as nuns, N-O-N-Es, in our cities, and we were beginning to really just lament that. But that also meant that we were going to have to course correct as far as being on mission and dealing with the lostness, the more pervasive lostness that is around us. So a couple of days ago, Christopherson, well, it was actually about a day ago, 23 hours ago, it says here, he said this, and I just want to interact with it a little bit. When the culture is tilted toward the church, we instinctively know what to do. We welcome them with a warm and sincere greeting. We hand them a gift bag, invite them to meet and greet with the pastor, and then get them to sign up for a new members class. It's muscle memory for most of us. I want to stop there. I want to interject this. That is such an apt metaphor, muscle memory. Because now we're having to develop new muscles. I mean, whenever you're exercising and you're doing a different type of exercise, you are working out brand new muscles that haven't been worked out before. That's what's happening to the church right now. And we could say that could be what's happening to ARBC. When we're wanting to go back to where we were, the reason we want to go back to that is we feel like it was easier. It was muscle memory. We knew what was happening every week, every month. We knew what was going on. And that began to be a problem for us when we were heading into this COVID season, because we now all of a sudden we're having to develop new muscles. He continues. But what happens when the culture is tilted away from the church? What do we do when there are only social disadvantages to our evangelical ties? This is the current reality of our mission field. Let me take a time out there. Right, we used to have a seat at the table, right? At least there was a perceived seat at the table. Did we have a seat at the table because those who were running for office wanted our votes and they felt that this was a viable way to be able to tap into a really large demographic of our country? Possibly. We really don't know. It's hard now to look back on any type of politician or any type of news media or any type of anything along this line that's moving along information for us to be able to have a full-throated trust in. But now, again, if you read some secular news articles and news organizations and such, and even some of the editorials and op-eds, it is now to a point where having those evangelical ties, because now evangelicalism is so tied to a political movement rather than a spiritual or a gospel movement. This is the reality of the situation. You don't have to believe me, but this is the reality of the situation, and I hope you will, and I can show you where this is the case, and this is the reality of it. So this is the current reality of our mission field. We are now in a mission field. We are now in a place where maybe a lot of folks in the culture don't want to hear what we have to say. That doesn't back off, though, our Great Commission work. So he gives us three things that we need to recognize. Number one, we need a different kind of church. Rather than a hyper focus on the gathering, we must prioritize equipping people for a disciple-making movement. we are all part of this. We have to be ready to disciple those and to engage those that may up front not want to deal with us. Okay, so that's where we have to come in. We have to be discipled so that we can turn around and disciple others and not just simply be recipients, but we're responding to the Great Commission. We need a different kind of planter leader. If our focus shifts to invading the secular space with believers who model the superiority of Christ, then we need infinitely reproducible co-vocational church planting teams that are within relational and credible proximity. In other words, the idea now of when we plant, for it to be a model that we may all be used to, we may end up having to adjust that because of that. And we can talk a little bit more about that when if God ever leads us to start planting other churches and other groups, we can dig into this even more, but we've got to make sure that we are open to other models that are still doing the same function of getting the gospel out, whether it's at church on a Sunday and other times in the assembly, or getting the gospel out where we go to work. But that's what we all should be doing right now. That's the mission field, especially, is our vocation. How are we getting the gospel out there? Here's the last one. We need a different level of gospel collaboration. Think about how foolish the question, "How many did you have?" sounds right now. This is for our good. Now we must think less about ourselves and more about the spiritual state of our communities. And to do that, to that end, we must work together with other churches to see that everyone has a chance to see, hear, and respond to the good news invitation of Jesus Christ. What does that mean? Think about how much we as pastors and all of that was one of the first questions we asked. How many do we have? How many people do we have coming to our service? If we had a few, there was an aspect of feeling like a failure. If we had a lot, then there was something inside us that felt like, wow, here we are. And we were tracking the changes from however long ago, and there would be little bumps, but all that. But it is a nationwide issue now of less and less people coming to our Sunday event. But we need to rethink and recalibrate the metric. How many people are we engaging Monday through Saturday? How many people are we engaging with the gospel, either discipling them, sharing the gospel with them, taking them to lunch, showing them, and yes, inviting them to the assembly to where we can be encouraged, but there's 6 other days in the week. How are we doing that metric? How are we reaching out and evangelizing and caring for our one? How do we view our communities? Do we view our communities as people to get away from because they believe differently than us? Or do we view our communities as ways to where we've got to do everything we can to try to connect and care and share what the gospel is all about, so that we can turn this number on its head? The cities that have more and more people with less and less religious affiliation, what are we doing to turn that around? So in closing, what I want to just share with you is that our Christianity has to be more than what we do on Sundays. It's not less. We must gather together. That is essential. That is key. That is crucial for us. But why do we do it? Just to get an activity out of the way and then we can go on Monday through Saturday? Not hardly. What we need to be doing is we come on Sundays and we are equipped as much as we can through these videos, through our small groups, ways that we're connecting, so that we can launch out and be able to connect with other people. For too long, we've seen our Christianity as what it can do for us. How can I be saved? How can I be made right with God? I. And then we stop there. There's more to it. We've got to continue to see the Great Commission as ones where we are going and making disciples of Jesus. Are we doing that? That's the metric. How many people are we engaging with the gospel during the week, whether it's strengthening people who are already Christians in the gospel or sharing with those who do not know the gospel? That's the metric right now, and that's the metric it always should have been. All right? Let's make sure that we're getting those things correct. More on that later, but I think that'll do for now. Thanks a lot, everybody.